Hello, my loves. I have something extra layered, juicy, and uber useful for you today. What you are about to hear is, if I do say so, a massively helpful class that I taught about relationships. More specifically, how your relationships, every one of them, are directly related to the health of your nervous system. And I will just give you my big thesis right now. If you have a strong and balanced nervous system, you will have stronger and more balanced relationships, which isn't to say that all of your relationships are going to be exactly the way you want them to be and everything's going to get healed and all will be forgiven and you're going to magnetize amazing, glorious humans into your life all day long everywhere. But what it does mean is that no matter what happens in your relationship, no matter what has happened, if you are balanced internally, psychologically, physically, if your nervous system is regulated, you are going to be more resourced to handle whatever is going up and down and sideways. You become less triggerable. So what I'm talking about in this webinar, which is called From Friction to Freedom, is the not so obvious relational symptoms and behaviors of nervous system imbalance. And I think on a global scale, pretty much every human being on the planet, that would be global, is dealing with, I don't want to say suffering, but is dealing with some degree of nervous system imbalance. Like, can I see a show of hands? How's your agitation level? How's your sleep? Who's getting on your nerves? Is the world getting on your nerves? Current chronic stress? Yeah. Our relationships are impacted by all of those things. But I think in the conversation, in the wellness space, we are not overtly making the connection between fried and frayed nervous systems and our relationships with the people we love the most, with the people that we don't know but claim to be on the other side of. Just relationships with the fragments within ourselves, cultures, all of it. And here's where all of this is going. I've created a new program. It's called The Nourish System. And if you've been with me for a while, if you're one of the OGs from my Desire Map days, this is the evolution. This is the grown up, deeper, go up the spiral of consciousness, but include your body temple more than ever version of Desire Map. Kind of, sort of. It's its own thing. It's a framework for you to regulate your nervous system. We look at body and mind and emotions and relationships. We look at soul, livelihood, space and things, and your wellness team. I've created this sweet little grid of these 8 lifestyle areas. And then I've created a system where you do really light or really deep, depending on how you want to roll, check-ins on a daily or weekly or monthly basis within all of those areas. And then on top of that, leading up to that daily system, which is going to change your life for potentially the rest of your life, I walk you through the process of identifying your default stress reaction. Are you fight, flight, freeze, or fawn? And then we take a path towards identifying your ideal stress response, because we want to get out of reactivity and into responsiveness. And then working with the energy healer, it's been on Team D for 8 years now, VS, we've matched all of those stress responses with healing practices and methodologies. So essentially, the Nourish System program is a heart-centered approach to your entire life with emphasis on how to regulate your nervous system with a spiritual approach, which is another thing I don't think is considered enough in this milieu conversation of nervous system regulation. Like, yes, for supplements, yes, for sleep hygiene, yes, for doing all the things you can do to get your hormones into balance. But where's the connection to the higher self? Where is the devotion to a heart-centered life, which really is what all of our happiness and nervous system regulation hinges on? That's my own personal journey, which I've talked about many times on With Love, Danielle, of my dark night of the soul, anxiety, panic attacks, waking up with suicidal ideation, my body so inflamed I had a hard time walking up the stairs, the brain fog that I thought was going to drive me crazy because I couldn't, just had to reach for everybody's name to remember anything. So my focus for the last 5 years, personally, has been on regulating my nervous system. There's been lots of support, lots of research, a few backward steps, some surprises with mold toxicity and metals toxicity, and I've come out on the other side. And I've done all the things that work for my stress type and where my lab work was at, all wrapped in a spiritual package. The meditations were just as important as the vitamin D. The reframing my thoughts from self-criticism to qualitative, loving thoughts. The breathing exercises, the forgiving. Forgiveness has been probably one of the most powerful things I've done to come into deep inner balance, which I can attribute to clear thinking. Clear thinking helps me know the next best move for healing. Is it going to be that supplement? Is it going to be that somatic release therapy? Is it that methodology? Without being anchored to my heart, without having regular practices of contemplation to get me connected to my soul and my unseen spiritual support crew, then I won't be hearing the signals for the best things to do with my body. So the Nourish system is a holistic approach to nervous system regulation. So here's the thing. I want you to get down with this podcast episode. You are listening to my From Friction to Freedom webinar, looking at the relational symptoms and behaviors of nervous system imbalance. Then when you head to daniellelaporte.com/freedom, you're going to see a discount code where you can get $50 off of the Nourish System program. The program is going to get rolled out over an 8-week period. I'm going to deliver to you a new module every Sunday, and I'm going to walk you through all the lifestyle areas, the stress responses, the basics of what your nervous system actually is. And if you ask me, you can totally skip over that module if you want, because, I'm the type of person where I don't need to know what's under the hood. You just need to tell me how to turn the ignition on and where the gas pedal is and the brakes. But it is deeply helpful to have the visual of the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system and what that looks like in your body. We're going to talk about serotonin and GABA and dopamine and all the great neurotransmitter juicy things. But mostly, what I'm excited about is moving into creating your ideal stress response, because there is stress. Knowing how to match your stress response with the healing methodology that really works for you, and then having a really simple system that does two things. Gets you moving in the right direction. It's like traction for healing. It's so simple. Reminder, I got 4 planets in Virgo. I'm really great at systems design. And secondly, it's a system for helping you to build on your wisdom, listening to your body, regular reflection. And then also I've built in a component where you're going to build your wellness team, and that is super cool. You're going to get your crew together, and you are going to feel fully supported, body, mind, emotions, relationships, soul, all the things. So again, head to my website, daniellelaporte.com/freedom. You could actually watch the whole visual, me and my pretty good hair day sitting at home talking about relational symptoms, and you get $50 off of the Nourish system. Okay, it's time. Here we go. From friction to freedom. It's all yours. With love, Danielle. This is a throwdown on how to move more deeply into nervous system regulation, which is to say nervous system balancing, so that our relationships come into balance. More inner balance, more outer balance. When the nervous system is strong, our relating is stronger. Yeah, we don't wig out. I think almost everything that I've had to apologize for in relationship, or that I've wanted an apology for, has to do with my nervous system being too jacked or too drained. And that's really where all this starts from. So, who can relate to this? Silent treatment? Anybody slammed a door? Anybody thrown a plate? Anybody just left? I'm leaving. Conversation is over. It's over. Screaming in your car? White knuckling? Gripping the steering wheel? How do you feel after that? I know you don't feel great after that. The hard bail. The hard bail on date night, the bail, even though you said you would. And then we usually get ourselves attached to some identity like, I am an introvert and this is good for my nervous system. So I can't. Yeah. Those are all symptoms of a dysregulated nervous system. So when we're out of balance, we do disruptive things. Now, the situation with trying to get back into balance is that most of us try and fix our inner balance or our relationship problems, our relationship struggles from the outside in. So I'm all down for psychology. I'm down for therapy. I'm even down with wise influencers who can give you 3 steps to change your entire life in 24 hours. But we're missing a piece of the puzzle, which is sort of the soul perspective of how we regulate. And I think in the conversation around nervous system, and I'm super stoked that so much of this is happening right now in the wellness space, nervous system has become the new buzz. Trauma is the new buzz because it's real. But the missing is we're not making the connection between our relationship, our quality of our relationships, and the quality of our nervous systems, how balanced we are, how calm we are on the inside, and the degree, the type, the tone of arguments we're having with everybody. So this isn't just interactions with friends and family and partners. This is interactions with other cultures. This is how we're looking at other political parties, other ideologies. And so much of this is alive and thriving right now in line with what's going on in the world of conflict. This is the beginning. This conversation is the beginning of a program called the Nourish System. So for those of you who have been with me for a while, from the days of the Desire Map, where the question was, how do I want to feel? This is the evolution of that. So the Nourish System is a heart-centered approach to living with emphasis on your body, on your nervous system. I think this is our current situation. I think we are all still recovering, whether we are conscious of it or not, from the events of the last 4 years. I think we cannot catch our breath. So I think lots of us don't realize that we're still in recovery mode. Our adrenals are fried, and maybe we're aware of that. Maybe we're aware of hormonal imbalance, not sleeping through the night, a little more agitated. We're not making the connection necessarily to what we have endured over the last 4 years. And now new things are coming, and probably more new things, bigger challenges. And this is why I feel that attending to our nervous system is not a luxury. This isn't about getting a booster in your smoothie, right? Nervous system attendance does not fit in the same category of you're going to take a vacation this year. It's not an afterthought. It's not a special thing. This has to be daily. It has to be doubled down. It has to come from your heart. It's got to make it on your agenda. And that is the only way. This is a big statement. It is the only way that we are going to stay sane and that our relationships are going to thrive, and that we're going to create realities that we want to live in as all of the effects of the changes that are happening, the struggles that are happening are rolling out for us. This is numero uno priority now. So waves of anxiety, anybody? Panic attacks, difficulty sleeping, a noticing of your tone with all kinds of people, even in DMs with people you don't know, your tone with the people you love the most and that you want to actually bring healing to. And then we feel guilt for the tone. And then that guilt just causes more dysregulation and despair. Okay, so let's take a pause for some biology. So, what is your nervous system? This is how I think of it. Your nervous system is like your own personal internet that lives within your body. It's your own information highway. So the nervous system, if you were to see it, and in the Nourish System program, we've got all sorts of diagrams. You imagine like this highway, this system of nerves, of veins you could see that run through your body. It starts in your brain. The nervous system controls your heartbeat, your heart regulation, your heart rate variability, your sweating, your blush response, your hunger, your thirst, your shivering. The nervous system is how we experience the world. So if we can get the nervous system to be more robust, we're going to have a different experience in our relationships, and we're going to show up differently in our relationships. Everything you experience in life gets filtered through your nervous system. This stuff, we should be learning this in some degree in kindergarten up through university. So this is what happens. Two things. We have chronic stress. How do you define chronic? Ongoing, unmitigated, continuous stress. That's one factor. We all have that to some degree or another. Some of us can manage it better than others. And in addition to that, we have unresolved trauma. We have things we haven't healed. So it's a double whammy. And that is really, that's the two-pronged formula to dysregulation. So let me give you the 10 signs of being out of balance, out of whack, dysregulated. We have a hard time thinking clearly. Lots of us hearing about brain fog, confusion making decisions. It feels like a phenomenon where you can feel your brain reaching for something. You're reaching for the name. There's like just a nanosecond delay. Okay. We overthink things. Overthinking is a survival response. How might I be hurt? Where's the solution? Did I lock it? Have I covered all the bases so that I can be safe? We don't feel safe. The emotional body, the inner child does not feel safe. And that's really at the bottom of dysregulation. When we overthink things, we move into catastrophic thinking because the mind is thinking about all the things that can go wrong. And then you move into all the things that will go wrong. The relationship is not going to work. I'm not going to be there on time. I'm not going to get the job. It's just like this bad thing is definitely going to happen. Nervous system gets jacked. Number 3, we generally make unhealthy choices. How do you define an unhealthy choice? What are your favorite kinds of unhealthy choices? Mine usually have to do with just not moving. Don't move, be still, and overthink it. That's my unhealthy choice. Number 4, this one makes me a little bit misty. We don't keep our promises to ourselves. And that is a surefire way to upset your inner child, to create more distrust with that part of you that is wounded and is looking for healing. When you don't keep your promises with yourself, that shadowy part of us doesn't believe you when you say, I got you, I'm going to get rest, we're going to be okay today. It says, but you said that before and before and before and before. Number 5, we use the substances. Everybody has a substance. Everybody has a substance. Sometimes the substance is overdoing the healthy things, over sleep, over exercise. Somehow we numb out. Drugs, TV. This is a response to surviving the barrage of thoughts that we're having. Always thinking. The thoughts are always about being safe in one way or another. And the survival mechanism for this is we don't actually want to hear all of those thoughts that are always surveying for our safety. We would rather not be in survival mode, so we numb out. Survival mode is not living. Survival mode is dysregulation. There are times we're going to need to be in survival mode. You work extra, you work over, you deal with images of war, et cetera, et cetera. We can't live there on a sustained basis. That is chronic stress. Okay. We get disruptive, unruly, and erratic behavior, even to the people we love the most, usually to the people we love the most, because they're the people closest to us, because we know intuitively they'll probably stick around. Yeah. We dump, we leave, we don't do what we said we're going to do, we hang up. We live in fear. This is not an overstatement to be dramatic. We actually live in fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear of betrayal, always looking for safety, because those are the things that could hurt us: abandonment, betrayal, rejection. Okay. Now we're really getting into relationships. Number 8, sign of dysregulation. We end up tolerating erratic and inconsistent behavior from our partners. We all deserve more than erratic and inconsistent behavior. It creates too much rupture. It's not a safe place to be. But we endure that because we have the fear of rejection, abandonment, betrayal. We put up with people not doing things they say they were going to do. We wrestle with self-worth and self-esteem issues. This is number 9. Let me just end this conversation about self-worth right here. If a child went to their mother and said, "Mama, do you love me? Am I worthy?" The mother would say, we as caretakers, we as loving humans, parents, fathers would say, "Of course. What a silly question. I loved you before time. I love you unconditionally. I love you. Of course you're worthy. What a silly question." So the question of, are we worthy of our dreams, of being treated in any particular way? That's a question that the wounded self is asking. So, if you're asking that question in any situation, it's coming from your shadow content. It's coming from the ego mind that's always looking to divide. Don't even ask. Move into parent mode. Move into mother, father mode of your life, of your woundedness, of your fragmented selves. And you say, "Sweetheart, I got you." No need to even ask. Do not entertain the question. Number 10, finally, we keep overworking to try and over please others. But there's another part to this that's really important. So I think on some level, different points of our lives, we can all relate to the overworking and the over pleasing. But here's the thing: when we do that, what we're actually doing is we are manipulating other people in the situation in order to get our needs met. It sounds negative. It's not the most awesome behavior, but I want to put it in a loving light. That's a survival behavior. We manipulate to get our needs met because we want to live. We want to thrive. We want to go home. We want to be connected. It's just that those survival techniques that we needed a long time ago, when we were little, when we were wounded, when we didn't get our needs met from our community, from our people, because they're all broken and healing too, we learned to fawn. All of the stress responses, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, we learned when we were children. We learned we speak in a certain tone, we get the love we want. If we don't speak in a certain tone, we're not going to get the love we want. We don't need to do that anymore. We're grown-ups. We're self-actualizing. We want to grow because we are here in communities like this. Okay. So all of those perceived needs that we want to get met, to be loved and to be nourished consistently, are mostly coming from the subconscious self. The majority of us, with the exception of the enlightened ones, are operating in that shadowy, watery, emotional, lower mind. Lower mind is not bad mind, just the emotional feeling part of ourselves. Okay, so let's move into how we relate in relationships. So just want to drive this home. If our nervous system is strong and balanced, our relationships are going to be strong and balanced. If your relationships are out of whack, the internal systems are out of whack. I find great relief in this because there are simple, easy, easy to do, easy to maintain, proven, modern, contemporary, and ancient ways that we can regulate our nervous systems. This is so solvable. Really, this is about loving yourself enough to be devoted to your wellness. Okay, so this is what a regulated nervous system looks like. Your bandwidth to deal with triggers gets stronger. Your bandwidth to deal with the triggers gets stronger. I did not say that you do not get triggered because we're all bozos on the same bus and we're all here to learn. Like we learn through these triggers, but you don't get thrown off center. You just, oh, I feel so triggered right now. And there's this gap. So, first of all, we have the awareness to see I'm triggered instead of just flying off and being reactive. Self awareness. Then there's that gap. There's this moment. It's a microsecond. Sometimes it's just a breath. Sometimes it's 4, 6, 8 breathing. Sometimes you have more time because your mother is texting you and you could actually put the phone down and have some crackers and breathe and then get back to her. You can regulate, right? Okay. So you get stronger. You make space for whatever comes up. And this is the big one for me. You stay curious instead of running. You stay curious instead of running. Why do I feel this way? Why is this making me feel this way? And really, when we move closer to heart center, we can say, why do you feel that way? That's when we know, like, we're really growing. Okay, secondly, there's 5 on this list. You thoughtfully, lovingly respond to fears, doubts, insecurity, and pain. Thoughtfully respond. You know what happens when you can thoughtfully respond with loving kindness to those things? You will have to apologize way less, and you will not need as many apologies from people. Just be like, it's okay. You know, there is a space between understanding and really, real acceptance into the heart and demanding an apology. Could we all live lives where we don't have to demand an apology? Ultimatums don't work for the most part. You're grounded. What do I mean by grounded? You locate yourself in your heart. You start to become aware of that heart warmth, that luminosity, that heartache. When you're speaking to somebody, sometimes it doesn't matter if you're in conflict, you're in harmony, if it's romantic, if it's team, if it's familial, if you're doing a podcast interview, if you're ordering something at a store, sometimes we can feel this ache. I always see it as like this infinity loop, and I can feel it rising up into my throat. And when I know that's when it's happening, I become aware of that ache, that warmth. It's a glow. It's good. It's positive. It's expansive. It's actually like the nervous system getting a hug. And I feel it move up into my second chakra, to my throat. And I know that's the fuel. That's the stuff that's going to help me speak with love. I'm going to use speech that is built of loving kindness. Okay. You see your emotional, this is number 4 on the list. We know we're regulated. We know we're balanced. When we see our emotional scars, our woundedness as opportunities, that hurt. This is an occasion for me to grow. I feel wounded. Oh my gosh, I feel wounded. You know what? This is an opportunity for me to be loving. That is a rupture in the relationship. This is an opportunity for me to bolster my faith that we will get to the other side. All scars and woundedness get perceived as invitations, as a little bit of a gift if it's a hard day. You can see it as I'm wounded. This means I get to see my capacity to heal. I do not feel like myself in this situation. I don't feel like I'm speaking like my true self. I feel like I'm conflating, I'm conflicted. I'm not feeling seen, heard, felt, understood. All opportunities to be more of yourself and to create emotional intimacy with yourself and the other person. So you see more of yourself, you understand more of yourself, and then you radiate that out, and maybe you'll get a little more heard or understood. And if you don't, you're not going to wig. Okay, finally, you adapt instead of snap. So let me talk about adaptation and resiliency. Resiliency is a function of the heart, right? Resilience has nothing to do with becoming tougher, more leathery, sucking it up, or soldiering on. Resilience is actually not about endurance. Resilience, real resilience, is flexibility, it's adaptability, and that can only happen from the heart center. In the heart, the ego has space to relax. This is really the essence of being less defensive. Somebody asked a question recently about relationships and the nervous system and how to be less defensive. You can only be less defensive when you have that kind of heart belonging. You generate love. You're inventorying all the love you have in your life. The ego can relax. You're not so concerned about getting your needs met all the time. You're not so concerned about being right. You relax, you breathe into the heart, and you can adapt. The heart's vast. The heart accommodates your shadow self, your brilliance, your queenness, your kingness, your greed, your neuroses, your obsessiveness. It's where all change happens because of that vastness. And so you can flex. It's like, okay, I got time for someone's bullshit today. I'm spacious. I write about this story, I'll tell you quickly, from How to Be Loving, my last book. I'm going for a walk with someone I love. I'm committed to this relationship for the rest of my life. I'm very easily offended and triggered by this person. This person is excellent at being offensive. And on this particular day, in the sunshine, walking the dogs, they did what they do. And they started the poke about how I am and how they are and all that stuff. And I took my own medicine and I looked at the sky. There's a Buddhist kind of poetic approach. My heart is as vast as the sky. And I thought, I'm big, I'm vast. I can take this shitty treatment today. She's dysregulated. She needs some therapy. She needs a nap. I'm regulated. I've done my therapy. I meditated this morning. I got my nap in. I'm good. I can take this. And that's the difference between dysregulation in my own nervous system and the relationship. It's the difference between someone walking home and everybody getting a ride. Yeah. Okay. Let me give you a quote from the Nourish System program. When repressed, suppressed emotions that we have denied keep pushing up, it's like they're knocking on the basement for you to pay attention to them. When they keep pushing up in order to be conscious, that behavior, that push, is going to induce a response in our sympathetic nervous system. And then what's going to happen? It's going to lead us into freeze, fight, flight, or fawn. Fawning isn't talked enough about. We'll get into that, into the nervous system. It's imperative that we learn to work with our past traumas and release them in a safe manner. Release them in a safe manner, not in a workshop with people that you do not know, not with someone that you've never met who's not going to be there over the long haul with you, right? Not in chat rooms, not to people who cannot hold you, not to the people who have harmed you. You regulate first, and then you can go repair later with them. Releasing the trauma releases the burden on our central nervous systems, and it leads to more graceful living. A life fully lived is possible when past hurts are addressed in safe containers. So Nourish System looks at body, mind, emotions, and relationships. Okay, let me give you Nourish System and personality types. This is the juice, if it's not juicy enough. Okay. Who would identify as disorganized? Little, chaotic, confused, difficulty keeping your word, not sure how you're going to show up in relationships, tend to lose ourselves in relationships, whether it's romantic or familiar. Disorganized personality types, when they are dysregulated, out of balance, they are going to experience being afraid, and they're going to move quite quickly into being enraged. They're looking for conflict. That personality type looks for the fight. Fight pickers. And we're loving on all of this. Isn't it great to know that that could be you? Because then you can figure out how to be more of you. Yeah. Avoidant types. Anybody avoidant? Avoidant types like to pretend that their feelings of being angry don't exist. This would also be a 9 on the Enneagram. I'm not angry. I'm out of here, but I'm not angry. Yeah. Just going to avoid my own anger. Anxious personality types in relationships. We experience very big feelings, very big emotions. The emotions we experience are so big that they overflow out of us, which means when they're overflowing, when we're not containing them, when we're not parenting our own emotions and saying, let's just keep this tucked in, okay, then we move into projecting, which means we project us being mad because we're mad. We got these emotions. You're just going to get frustrated. You're going to get mad and you're going to be mad at everybody. You're going to be mad at the dude in the cafe. This is the road rage stuff. Just a little bit pissed at everybody, just a little bit all the time. The secure type. Let's just exhale. Secure. It's possible. We all have secureness, security running through us. There are conditions in which all of us at some time are secure. We're regulated. We are love. We're kindness. We're wise. We're queen. We're all that. Okay. The secure type knows that our unease is real, that the hurt is legit. Like that thing happened. We're human. And we don't repress that. We don't push those feelings away. And there's a decision to make when you decide, oh, I'm having this uncomfortable, unpleasant feeling. It's actually happening. I'm not denying it. I'm secure. I have space for that. And I'm not going to push it away. And then you make a choice. You decide what you're going to do with it, how you're going to process that emotion that could potentially dysregulate you, that could potentially throw you off center, that could potentially make you cranky and agitated or have you just bail. You could let it go. Newsflash, we do not have to process all of our emotions. This is the downside of too much therapy, of over processing. I think we've got to know where the feeling came from. Is it family of origin? Is it because of my human design type? Is that what the 7 on the Enneagram do? And we go through these things, just like one feeling out of 9,000 feelings a day. And we're clinging on to as many as we can to decipher. You do not need to do that. It's like the mama doesn't say, you're happy now? You're sad now. Why are you sad? Why are you angry? Why are you could just let the child just feel what they're feeling. You go on with the day. A nervous system that is balanced, that is nourished, can meet all kinds of experiences. Let me say it another way. When you double down on your devotion to your wellness, you live in a state of acceptance more often than not. When you're in that state of acceptance, by acceptance, I mean capital A, I mean virtue, I mean soul quality streaming into your thoughts and your speech and your actions, you're going to sleep better. You will have better lovemaking. You will be better parents. You are not going to get so offended. When you get a bad book review, when you get a shitty DM, when someone wants to pick a fight with you in your comments, when someone cuts you off in traffic, when someone in your family does the same thing you have asked them not to do, they did it again, you're okay. There's a double gift in the okayness. When you realize that you are not thrown off center, that you're in your heart, that you are still thinking clearly, that you are in control of all of your faculties, that you are actually embodying love, you heal the people around you. Regulating your nervous system, doubling down on your devotion to wellness is how you become an excellent leader. And that leadership may be how you walk through the shopping mall. But we are all teaching all of the time. The question is, what are you teaching? Are you teaching how to wig? Are you teaching calmness? Are you teaching polarization and division? Those are big words, but we can all see it happening right now online. Are you being divisive because you need to be right, because you want to be loved, because you don't feel enough love, because of historical things, and you haven't gone back to heal that trauma? So we need to be right about things? That's an ego play. That's a dysregulated play. That's the inner child saying, somehow get me love and acknowledgement. When your nervous system is regulated, I guarantee you won't engage as much online with fight stuff. I get questions asked of me all the time. How do I engage with this? Don't. Why would you? That's toxic energy. That's someone projecting all over you. We're all projecting on each other the majority of the time. Why are you going to take your illusion, your wound, and engage with somebody else's wound and their illusion? It's shadow boxing. It's ridiculous. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. But if you haven't slept, if you have brain fog, if you don't have a breathing practice, if you don't have spiritual practices, a contemplative practice, you're going to shadow box. You don't need to. I want all of us to sleep through the night. I want world peace. Okay. Zena is asking, is it possible to dysregulate by doing too much soothing? Quick answer is yes. I'll read the rest of Zena's question. I used to be very angry, and I did a lot of work to reprogram myself and de-stress my nervous system. However, I feel like I overdid this, as now I feel much smaller and quieter than my normal self. Yes, I was shamed a lot for my anger. Am I perceived calm in a way that is actually depression? Okay. This is why this question is genius. It's all about intention. Is your wounded self, is your unhealed self, is your ego, is your shadow content doing the soothing? Is it rocking back and forth? Is it reiterating the mantra, the motivational trope? I'm this, I am this, I am this, and it's agitated. So you can have the same affirmation. You can speak the same power words, and you can be speaking them from neuroses and fear or from heart-centered. You can be doing wounded child needing attention or parent of your life, of your nervous system. So then the question becomes, who's doing the soothing? And I think my experience with self-soothing contemplative practice is there are times when I'm dysregulated, when things are legit challenging, like big, new, hairy, gnarly things that I got to deal with. And I'll move into some repetition. I'll move into some chanting. And then I'll do it the next day, almost as a preventative measure. So I'm going to soothe so that this thing doesn't happen again. The thing hasn't happened today. I don't need to do that mantra today. I don't need to work out harder today. So do I really need this tool today? Because maybe I healed yesterday. And this is one of the key lessons I've had in the last 4 years around healing is the supplements, the mantra, sometimes the religion, the fitness regime, sometimes the relationship, the healing protocol that actually legitimately healed you. Like it really worked. It really expanded your consciousness. It got your nervous system regulated. It worked. It doesn't mean it's going to work forever. In fact, we grow out of many modalities. So you might need a different prayer. You might need a different regime. You might need a different doctor, a different naturopath, a different membership, a different coach, or whatever it is. I think nourishing the nervous system has a lot to do with simplicity. And we need to be doing what I would call a devotional refresh, where we look at all those things. Here, I'll just ask you now. Are all the things that you're doing to be well actually helping you to be well? Maybe you're resentful, and that resentful is creating an energy drag. Maybe you're doing it because the ego thinks you look great in stretchy black yoga pants. And if you do more yoga, you're going to burn some karma. That could be true. Maybe not. Maybe the answer is too soon to tell. You need the 21 days. You need the 3 months. You need to be in a new relationship, a new job to see how it's going. And you hang in there. You don't leave before the miracle happens. Katie, can a balanced, nourished nervous system become dysregulated if pushed far enough by an anxious type? In brackets, a toxic narcissist. I feel that has happened to me. Okay, this goes into a bigger question about relationship dynamics and how do I stay heart-centered and regulated when somebody else has this dysregulated, leaning towards toxic behavior? Is it me or is it the relationship? Here's my take on that. It's always you. It's always us to some degree. Let me talk about narcissism for a second, because we hear this personality diagnosis a lot in the wellness space. I'm like totally an empath and they are a narcissist. And, narcissists are attracted to empaths because we feel everything for them and we are the light of the world. That's actually quite true, statistically speaking. However, everything is a reflection. Everything. There are no exceptions to this. This is universal law. I'm sticking to this one because we all come from the same source. So if you are involved with a narcissist in any way, they are reflecting you. You have a degree of narcissism in you. Everybody does. Maybe you're just 10% a narcissist and they're 90% the narcissist. It means like maybe you're just 10% of the problem and they really are like consistently, a stress bucket kind of jerk. If you just take responsibility in that moment for your 10%, for your piece of the pie, your nervous system will relax. And something else happens. You actually build an energetic bridge to that person. You see some common ground. They're really narcissistic. They're really dysregulated. Well, I'm a little bit narcissistic. I'm a little bit dysregulated right now. You breathe. A little bit, you just dial down your judgment of them by 10%. So can you be dysregulated, pushed far enough by another anxious type? Depends on how regulated you are. Fiona, can you still address a wrongdoing from a balanced place? Absolutely. This takes strength. This is why we practice, so that we can keep our hearts open in the face of dysregulation and evil and war and just disagreements and who didn't put the cap on the toothpaste again. This is why we do this. This is why we practice. I have a poem called This Is Why We Practice. Let me see if I can remember a bit of it for you. Because you don't need to be forgiving until you need to forgive. And because you don't need to be calm until your every last nerve has been maxed. And this is why we practice. And that poem was written based on a meeting I had with the Dalai Lama. This was many years ago. I went up to Dharamsala, northern India. 6 of us got to hang with the DL. And the week we'd gone, there was this terrible tragedy where some monks had killed some other monks. It's really violent. It was shocking. And so when the meeting with His Holiness began, we all 6 of us in some way spoke our condolences to him. And I was expecting he would say, he's like, I and those monks. But I was expecting he was going to speak to the conflict and the tragedy. And his response was very simple. This is why we practice. He didn't even change his energy at all. It's just like, this is life. This is why we practice. Do you have any tools for couples who chronically trigger each other? That is relationship, by the way. And don't know how to handle the conversation and get stuck each time it happens. Just have the conversation about being stuck, for one. It's like, this is always happening. There's a pattern. My partner and I, we took a course, an online course with Terry Real, who's been at this for a long time. And what I took away from it, because I love to be right, is an angry woman is a woman that feels unheard. But really, I think I could take that up to the next level. I think an angry human is a human that does not feel heard. And there's lots of really basic practices. This is what I heard you said. Did I get it right? Do you have more? This is like Harville Hendrix Imago stuff. But I want to lift this up even more. The Nourish System program that we're all moving towards is something, I want as many people to do as possible, but we're looking at getting into corporations because I believe that if individuals can regulate and come into balance, then the collective is going to be better off. I don't think that there's any meeting protocol or 3-step agenda or HR thing that can wrangle people who are dysregulated. So why don't we support individuals to come into more balance and show up as their whole, honest selves? The same thing is true in relationships. So I think we actually tend to ask the wrong question, which is what's the tool for the couples? The tool is really if each individual would be doing what they can to be more regulated, we will think more clearly. We can go get the therapy we need. Maybe we don't even need therapy. And we stop looking to everybody else to meet our needs, which are coming from the wounded place. Holly, how do I stop begging to be included in someone's life when they are clearly shutting the door in my face? The inner child is begging. The queen is not begging. The mother is not begging. Your inner deep balance, your connection to universal mind is not doing the begging. So tend to the part of you that is begging. Don't criticize her. Don't push her away. Don't shut her out. Write a love letter to your inner beggar. This is what I do every day. Simplest practice. This is nervous system regulation. I did it today. Right hand on belly. It's like you put your thumb in your belly button, left hand on your heart. You can do this while you're still laying in bed. And you say, inner child, dear baby Stacy, Melanie, Karen, Jen, Lynn, Emma, what do you need today to come into balance? How can I support you to come in balance? What do you need? What do you need? Because it's that part of you that is begging to be included in somebody's life. And then you become the generator of what it is that you're begging the world for. We beg for stuff from our teams. We beg for stuff from bosses and waitresses and ex-husbands and all the things. We're in begging mode. No more begging. Give what you want from the outside world and the people closest to you, to yourself, and see what happens. I know this may sound like a platitude when you're in crisis, but it's the stuff. It's the ancient stuff. Robert, do you think there is a new, rather significant need to get into our bodies differently and then experience newness relating to others? I'm getting big hits desiring to be in my body and not in the old way, but a new one. This has to do with frequencies, new frequencies and energetic levels. Okay, there's a lot in this question, and I'm not sure I'm totally understanding it, but let me tell you what I think. I think we have not been where we are going. I think the circumstances that we are in require us to behave, think, move, pray, relate in different ways. The age of Pisces is done. It's 22,600 year cycles. We're in a new cycle, age of Aquarius. This is unfamiliar. The chakric system is being changed. Sound frequencies are being changed. Planetary elements, earth, wind, fire, air, ether, everything is being changed right now. So if you feel the impulse to relate in a different way, to get into your body in a different way, follow it, because the call is for newness, because the old ways have toxified. The old ways worked. And you can bring this down into your own life. The old ways of freezing, fighting, flighting, fawning, they worked when you were 6. They worked when you were maybe when you were 26. They don't work anymore because we want something newer, because we're becoming more conscious. We are emerging as loving beings. We have to show up in a different way. And because we're in agony. Look at what is happening from we're not sleeping through the night to we're on the third version of the same pattern, the same relationship. We're marrying the same person again. What a waste of time that is. So new ways of being. One of the default stress responses is the freeze and shutdown response. And when we freeze, we don't want new things. We don't want new food. We want to watch the same movie over again. We want to have the same conversation just so we can get it right. Let's just drive by. And can we just talk about this again? We don't want to move in new ways. We are all being called to new ways of relating. Okay, one more question. Sky, can you riff on the process of choosing the focus without going into overwhelm? Yes, I want to stay awake without overwhelm. I don't want to check out anymore. And the overwhelm is a really bad look on me and my taxes and my nervous system, etc. So you know my phrase, instead of saying I'm overwhelmed, I just say I'm whelmed. So there's that. I've been trying the Pomodoro time management method where you focus, you set your timer for 30-minute intervals. When your timer goes off, you take a break, you task switch, take a break and you go back. And then after 4 intervals of that, you take a real break. This has been so great for my own personal nervous system because I know I'm going to get to check Instagram. I know I'm going to get up and have a little square of dark chocolate. I know that I'm going to get to play a song. It's coming. The break is coming. I also know I'm giving myself the permission to not attend to everybody else. Just for these 30 minutes, I'm not going to check this, that, and the other. So that's been very helpful. Let me tell you about nerve system. Nerve system is the most current on time thing I've ever done. I've been focused on my own nervous system for the last 4 years. For those of you who've been in my Heart Center community, you know the story of my dark night of the soul. Suicidal ideation, anxiety waves, panic attacks, a romance, a cancel culture experience that tipped me over, hormonal imbalance, cortisol levels of a gorilla, estrogen, testosterone, hormones tanked, perpetually dysregulated as a result of not healing my trauma and chronic unmitigated stress. Some of it just ongoing, and then some really big life circumstances that, we wouldn't wish on anybody when we go through them. Learning to regulate my nervous system was survival. Then you mix into that I'm not so influenced by the science. I'm not down with the ideology of life hacking and crushing it and slaying your fears. That everything I do, my life is heart-centered. I'm here to alleviate suffering, amplify joy on a spiritual path. And I think that is the missing with the whole cultural conversation around nervous system regulation. It doesn't take into account the soul. And it doesn't make a strong enough connection from the nervous system into our relationships. Duh. So my answer to that duh is the nourish system. And because I have 4 planets in Virgo, and if I may, my talent is creating systems. I am wired for simplicity and methodologies. So nourish system, it's about looking at body, mind, emotions, and relationships on a daily basis if you want, or on a weekly basis if you want. The system is flexi because flexibility is calming. The system is simple because simplicity is calming. And you're also going to look at your living and workspace. You gotta get it organized, and you can do it in a really graceful way. I'm helping you condo your wellness system. And I have a system for building your wellness team. And this is all based on the last 4 years of my life. I have documents, I have checklists that are my wellness team. I have a little system that organizes my supplements. And then on a daily basis, I check in with my body. I check in with my mind. I check in with my emotions. Really, that's baby Danielle. And I have some beautiful things I do for my relationships. So here's the offer and here's the sell. The Nourish system, if you go to daniellelaporte.com/nourish bundle, then this is what everybody's getting right now. So the course is $333. So by the way, it's 8 weeks that gets you set up with your own nervous system. You will create your own Nourish system. And then I stay in touch with you for a year. Hi, $333. So the bundle right now is for $283. So you get $50 off. And then you come into our heart-centered membership for 3 months. So that's 6 more live classes. You like this throwdown? You get this twice a month if you want to show up. If you can't be here live, you get it all recorded. And in that membership, you get, I think, over 25 mantra playlists. And I identify them. You want a mantra for sleeping better at night? You want a mantra for nervous? It's all there. And you get 20 some meditations and all of that. Now, for heart-centered members, if you're already part of the membership, we're going to get you a code. We get you into the Facebook group and you get all the beautiful things. Nourishment looks different for everybody, but the life systems of, body, mind, heart, relationships, those are universal. Yeah. Double down on your wellness program, your wellness devotion. That is how you change the collective. That is how you lead. And that is one of the greatest acts of love you can make in times like these. Thank you so much for listening, for feeling, for spreading the word with love.